listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS podcast listeners. In this tutorial, we are going to be talking with our international study expert, Fedwa. She's going to be telling us how many courses we can apply for. We're going to look at the restrictions. We're going to look at how students could choose which course. What are the implications for applying to different courses? And can students switch their course after the UCAS application? We're going to be looking at all of this. And if this is your first time listening to IELTS podcast, then welcome. You're in the best possible place. You're in the best possible hands for your IELTS preparation. Every week, we're getting thank you emails from students who've used our materials, used our courses, used our AI essay checker, and it's just a great place to improve your scores. Now, how did I get into IELTS? Well, I landed in Spain around, I think it was maybe 2007, and I was looking for work, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be an English teacher. And I quickly went to work in the best academies. And then all my private students started asking about IELTS, and I didn't have a clue. I remember teaching one lesson about task 2, and it was a disaster, and it still haunts me to this day. So I was like, okay, enough is enough. I started asking all the professional teachers I could find, professional speech therapists and whatnot. And then I started recording these interviews, releasing them as a podcast, and I gradually got better by testing the material with students until we're up to today, where we've got our AI essay checker, we've got courses, we've got hundreds of students, literally every day, hundreds of students using the AI essay checker. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you're interested in passing fast, or maybe you're not interested, it's just an essential urgency that you've got to pass the exam fast to get into the course that you've applied for, then go over to IELTSPodcast.com, sign up to the newsletter, and you'll get a ton of material and resources just to help you pass the exam as quickly as possible. So hello there, Fedwa, and welcome to today's tutorial. Could you tell us how you became a world-leading expert?
Ben. Hi, Ben, and thank you for having me today. Well, I mean, how did I become an expert? Well, first of all, to become an expert, you need many years of of doing the same thing. So then you become an expert. But so when I arrived to the UK, so I have a background. I was born in Morocco, so my family from Morocco. Then we moved to Italy, and I did all my studies in Italy. I used to be a journalist. Like, it sounds like a life ago. Like, I don't know. I used to be a journalist. I used to work for the Italian Parliament as well for for some time. So, but I was like a bit, I didn't have like a kind of career prospect in that, and I just decided that I didn't want to do politics anymore, and I decided to come to the UK to do an MBA. So so when I arrived here, I started studying for my GMAT and IELTS as well, but then Brexit, like, they voted for Brexit, and I said, okay, I don't want to spend all this money for an MBA when I don't even know if I can stay in this country or not, because at the beginning we didn't know what was going to happen. So I said, okay, let me find a job. And my first job here in London was for an educational consultancy that helped students from Middle East to come and study here in the UK. And I think I've told you once, but when I started, I didn't even know about the existence of this industry, because in Italy, education is almost free. So it's not a business in Italy. Education is not, definitely it's not a business. So yeah, and I started like literally like by calling students, but I didn't even know what I was talking about. So like, I had my colleague, like, she was a senior, and suggesting things and telling me what I had to tell students. But yeah, but after 10 years of doing this, now I can say that I'm quite an expert because there is always new things happening, new courses. The universities, they change policies, they change programs. So we are always learning. But yeah,
Yeah.
so this is how I started.
And just one quick question before we jump into it. In the previous tutorial, we talked about deadlines and that in England, in the UK, deadlines are deadlines. They are set in stone. There is very, very rarely, if any flexibility. And we just got onto about the culture, punctuality, and deadlines and stuff in the UK and how it's different in Italy and also in Spain and other countries. And I was just wondering, were you a punctual person before coming to the UK, or have you always been a punctual person, or do you struggle with it? Like, just briefly, like, what's your
No,
experience
I've
there?
been always very punctual, like always.
Gotcha.
Like I really get, until today, I really get annoyed if I'm going to an appointment and the person is late. And I'm not saying late by 10 minutes, but if they are late by 30 minutes, I really get annoyed because I have to leave home very early and I have to organize myself, everything to be there for on time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I do get annoyed. So, and I don't want to adjust to people that don't arrive on time. So I want to keep my line of being always punctual. So, and I like it because it's also a form of respect for the person that you're going to meet. I don't know if you have an assignment and you have to send it, it's important and a form of respect for the professor that is waiting for it. It's
Yeah.
always good to respect deadlines and to be on time. Always good.
Let's jump into it. Today, we are going to be discussing how many courses can I apply for? My first question is, how many courses can an international student typically apply for at UK universities going through UCAS?
Yeah. So through UCAS, the maximum is 5 universities,
Hmm.
unless they are applying for medicine, and medicine it's only 4.
Right. I see. I see. But they could, I mean, like we mentioned last time, they could apply for more in total if they applied via direct entry outside of the UCAS system. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exact. Yeah. So they can, if they know uh, these universities, because you really have to research a lot in order to understand which are the universities they have direct entry. So if they find the universities and they are happy with their ranking, with their location, with the courses they are offering, then they will definitely have more options. They can apply to up to other 5 or 6 or whatever they want. So they don't have a limit when it comes to universities offering direct entry.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. And are there any restrictions on selecting a few courses at the same university?
So let's say this, when you're applying through UCAS, you have to submit a personal statement. And the personal statement is linked and it talks about the subject that you want to study. So if it's in civil engineering, it has to be about civil engineering. If it's biomedical, it has to be in for biomedical science. So you can't just like apply for 3 courses or 4 courses in biomedical science and then add one for business, because your personal statement wouldn't address the business course.
Right.
But if there is anything that it's related or close to the course that you are applying to, so you can add another course at the same university as well. You can apply, I don't know, now I don't know, biology and biomedical science. You can try to do that. Okay. but you can just like apply to two different courses and think that it's going to be fine. It's not going to be okay.
And if you apply, so when you're going through the UCAS system, it's limited by the course. So you could apply to two similar courses at the same university, but that's going to use two of your, was it 5 or 6?
Options. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. It's going to
Yes.
use two of your options. Right.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, how should students choose which courses to apply for, and what factors should influence the decision?
Well, I think we spoke about this when we
Yeah.
addressed the personal statement. So it's well, first of all, they need to try to understand what are the subjects that they like, what are the subjects where they do very well. Yeah, and then I mean it's difficult because they really need to talk about it,
Yeah.
because they need to explore. The year before applying, they should spend it doing a lot of reading,
Yeah.
because nowadays we really like have universities offering 300 courses. So 300 courses are a lot.
Yeah.
So because even in business you have probably 10 courses in business, and then I mean there are a lot of courses. So you really need to do some reading, talk like with your family, talk with your friends, watch a lot of videos, tutorials about the subject that you're interested in, talk to your counselor. Like they need to do a lot of talking, because otherwise they will arrive to the moment when they want to apply and they are still very confused.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so my advice is, please use the summer of the year before the last year in high school to do a lot of reading and to go through a lot of um, universities, a lot of courses, and try to narrow down um, what are the potential courses that you might be interested in, and then do more reading and try to explore a bit, or understand what I'm going to end up doing if I do this course. And if you have anyone in your family that does the same thing, you can go and ask and talk to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, because otherwise you arrive to uni and you have no clue about what to expect, what you can do in your career, how it looks like.
Mhm.
So yeah, so students, they need to work on this a bit the year before, I guess, before applying.
And we go into this in a previous podcast talking about the personal statement. We cover this in far more detail. And we also mentioned, I'm probably going to mention it again now, that you can go to IELTSPodcast.com/UK, and there you can fill out a form and you can also ask some questions, and we will get back to you. And this can also help you with your research, with your decisions, and just getting a professional on your team is just going to make the whole process a lot easier and less daunting for you. And just as a side note, I remember at uni in the first year, there's this Greek student, and she'd like done a ton of research about Manchester. She'd read all the brochures about Manchester, and in there she'd seen all these pictures of canals and like these beautiful industrial mills taken. These photos were taken like in that 1 week in summer when it was sunny in Manchester, and then when she arrived in September, it was vastly different. And the picture, obviously, what she saw in Manchester, it wasn't photoshopped. The canals had bikes and cones thrown in them. Obviously, not all of them,
Oh,
but it's just worthwhile doing a lot of research, and yeah, even jumping on Google Street View, just to get a real picture rather than the brochures from the unis. Okay, moving on. I mean, to be fair, she did have a good time. She finished well, and she did enjoy it, but it was just a bit of I wouldn't say deception, but maybe slightly misled. Um, but yeah, okay. What are the implications of applying for multiple courses in terms of application fees and the workload involved?
So the application fees, I have to say, here in the UK are not high because usually if you, so there are no fees if you apply to universities directly, but there is a fee for UCAS, which should be around probably £27 for the 5 options. So it's not expensive at all. It's not like in other countries, for example, Canada, where they ask you only for one application to one university, like 100 Canadian dollars or even more. I've seen even 300 Canadian dollars. So so fortunately here in the UK, you can apply to any university and you don't have to pay for the application unless, as I said, you are applying on UCAS, and UCAS they have their own fee.
Right. Okay. And can students change their course selection after submitting the UCAS application?
Well, yes, most of the time they can, because when they apply through UCAS, so the universities, they will get in touch with you saying that they received your application. And if I mean, if you want to change, you can just like talk to the university directly. Ask first if you can change course, and if that is possible, then if they say yes, then there is a way of calling UCAS and then trying to change the course on UCAS as well. But
The
yeah, but if
the university has to contact UCAS. You can't contact them directly. Is that correct?
no, sometimes students, they can contact UCAS as well,
Okay.
especially when they want to be released from some universities and add
Mm,
another option or something like that. But the university has to agree first in this case when they want to change a course. It
see.
has to happen through the university.
I see. So if you want to change from a certain course at the same university, you contact the uni. But if you want to change to a completely different course at a completely different uni, it's probably better to approach UCAS.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. What strategies can international students use to strengthen their applications, especially if they're applying for highly competitive courses?
Well, I mean, so definitely we said their personal statement. They have to work a bit on their personal statement. But the most important thing is that they have to focus on their studies, because the UK is very like, I mean, they only look at your grades. So it's not like the US where they look at your extracurricular activities, or, and yeah, the grades are okay, but if you don't meet up with the deadline, and if you are a student that does hundreds of activities, they might offer you a place.
Yeah.
Here in the UK, they don't look at extracurricular activities. They only look at, yes, your personal statement, but mainly your grades. So, and
Interesting.
this is why students, when they are applying, um, sometimes I don't know what happens to them when they are like making like choosing their universities. They all think they will get the top grades at the end of the year. And even if they've been like some, good students, but not like excellent students. It comes to picking the universities, they all want like the top 10 universities in the UK. Um, so because I don't know, they think that something might happen. But I always tell them, please, there are no miracles when it comes to getting accepted from a university. You need to have the grades that are shown and which are online. They tell they are everywhere. You need like 2 A stars and an A. It's 2 A stars and an A.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be an A star and 2 Bs. So students, they need to be a bit more aware of this, because sometimes they think that the universities might make an exception, but they won't.
Right, I see. What about clearing? Well, is there some flexibility there?
Yeah. So, but clearing, what we have to say about that top universities, they won't get to clearing. They usually fill all their places because they receive loads of applications. So everyone wants top universities. Okay, so these universities usually they receive a lot of applications, and this is why most of them, they are not available in clearing. So what you would find in clearing is medium ranked universities and low ranked universities. Those one are the ones that they might struggle to feel like the class.
I see. So those are the ones that could offer you some flexibility if you didn't get exactly the grades that you said you would.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And just going back to about being realistic and not dreaming of miracles, this is the value that working with an expert can bring to the table. Working with someone like Fedwa, it's going to speed up the process because you're not going to be making unrealistic applications. You're going to get your hand held basically, and just the guidance. So you're not wasting time doing futile applications that are never going to get accepted. So, and you can get in contact with us if you are interested in working with an expert and saving time at IELTSpodcast/UK. Just the letters U and K. Right then. Final question. How does applying for multiple courses affect the chances of acceptance? Or is there a strategy to increase the likelihood of getting an offer?
Well, definitely, as I said, you really need to read the entry requirements very well. Sometimes here in the UK, they might ask you certain grades in math or in physics or in chemistry. It depends on the course, really. So you need to read those entry requirements. And if you don't, and you just apply because you think you are good enough, then that it's not a good strategy to get into good universities. But what I suggest and what we do is we look at, like, we start from 10, 15 universities, and then we go through them all. We look at the entry requirements because we really need to make sure that the student will meet those entry requirements. And then sometimes, surprisingly, we find that some universities that are very, very, very good universities, they might have entry requirements slightly lower than some other universities that are not that are not very well known. Now, I don't want to make names or give names of universities, but surprisingly, sometimes you're able to get into some very known universities, very good universities that accept some lower grades compared to some others that are internationally not that known, okay, and where they ask for higher grades. So this is why it's very important that you go with an open mind. You don't exclude anything, but you just need to do the work of getting to know what is the university looking for. And once you've done that, you can select the universities where you have. Usually what we do is we pick 2 universities that are very good, very high ranked, where the student think that he can meet up with the entry requirement. But then the rest, the 3 left, we need to be almost 100% that the student will get accepted.
I see. So like on the possibility that they meet the requirements, we're going to apply because these are exceptional. But in the likelihood that they don't meet the criteria, we've got 3 definites in our pocket just in case, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. See, this is the advice. This is what you get when you're working with a professional. You're going to go to the UK. You're not going to be losing a year of your life because you applied all the 5 top ones. You used all your 5 choices for the top ones and didn't meet the criteria. And just a side note, before we wrap this up, you just reminded me when you were talking about the lesser well-known universities, because I remember at uni, there's this guy, I think his name was Dan, and he was slightly older. And the question was like, "Oh, why are you a bit older than us?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I was at Oxford before this," and we all thinking, "Oh wow, this guy's really smart." But then my mate told me, he says, he didn't go to Oxford, he went to Oxford Brookes." But he doesn't tell anybody Oxford Brookes. He just said, "Yeah, I was at Oxford beforehand."
Oxford,
Yeah.
before. Well,
And that's nothing against Oxford Brookes. It was just quite misleading, obviously, just to seem smarter than he was. Okay, so we can we can wrap that up. And if any student is seriously considering studying in the UK and would like some help and some assistance there, you can go to IELTSPodcast.com/UK, just the letters U and K. And you can fill out a form and you can ask some questions there. And we can get back to you and we can start working together and make you help you realize your dream studying in the UK. And if you're struggling with the IELTS exam, or maybe you've got a conditional offer and you need to pass fast and you need to pass with certainty, then go over to IELTSpodcast.com. You can have a look at our courses there. We get emails every week thanking us for students from students who have been successful, and you can look at our AI essay checker to get some instant feedback and just improve your essays there. And and also a ton of resources and materials like collocation PDFs and Band 9 examples. All of that's available at IELTSpodcast.com. So have a great day. Thank you for listening, and all the best with your IELTS exam.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.